Hey everybody, this is your man Will H, the Cinephile, and welcome back to my channel. And as someone who has been deeply familiar with the story of Moses since childhood, I approached Exodus, Gods and Kings with cautious curiosity. Unfortunately, from the outset, this movie fails to capture the essence, depth, and spirit of the biblical narrative. Ridley Scott's adaptation transforms one of the most powerful and awe-inspiring biblical stories into a bland and uninspired historical epic that lacks both the emotional weight and the spiritual resonance that makes the tale of Moses so compelling. Like, don't get me wrong, Scott's vision is undeniably grand in scope, as his films often are. Like, the visual storytelling is stunning, the cinematography is impeccable, and the technical execution are are remarkable as always. And Christian Bale delivers a solid performance, and the ensemble cast is strong on paper. Yet, for all its technical prowess, Exodus is a hollow shell, a film that prioritizes spectacle over substance, historical epicness over biblical authenticity, and action over emotional depth. Like, Ridley Scott has built his career on crafting visually arresting films, but here his approach feels self-indulgent and detached. Like, his aversion to the religious aspects of the story is palpable, resulting in a film that leans heavily into being a historical epic while discarding the heart of what makes the Moses story enduring, like its spiritual core. Like, Scott's atheistic perspective is evident as he strips the story of its profound biblical and divine elements, leaving a dry and uninspired retelling. Like, the Ten Commandments and the Prince of Egypt, while executed differently, managed to balance biblical roots with compelling storytelling. The Prince of Egypt feels like a heartfelt children's film while still honoring the biblical narrative without being preachy. Meanwhile, the Ten Commandments is a sprawling epic that embraces the life of Moses with reverence and gravitas. In stark contrast, Exodus feels like Scott actively avoided the religious aspects, preferring to immerse audiences in epic visuals rather than the soul of the story. The script, co-written by Steven Zaillian and other seasoned writers, attempts to take a fresh approach to this timeless story. Zaillian is a celebrated screenwriter, known for known for his powerful and captivating films like Schindler's List, which won him an Oscar for Best Adapted Screenplay in 1994, and American Gangster, but the screenplay here feels disjointed and uninspired. Like, the writing reduces the story to a shallow narrative that fails to capture the emotional and spiritual journey of Moses. Like, at its best, the story of Moses is powerful, captivating, and deeply moving. Like, it's about liberation, faith, and the awe-inspiring confrontation between divine will and human power. Yet in this film, all of that is lost. Like, 30 minutes into the movie, I realized it lacked the very elements that make the story compelling. Like, gone is the intrigue, the inspiration, the resonance. Instead, the movie offers a bland, uninspired sequence of events that fail to root in Moses' plight or his mission. Although Exodus is objectively a biblical adaptation, but it's the worst biblical adaptation I've ever seen. Like, even though I'm not typically a fan of biblical films, often finding them preachy, redundant, and often boring for my taste. Like, this film managed to set a new low. Like, it doesn't feel biblical at all. Instead, it feels like a half-hearted attempt to create an action-heavy, pseudo historical epic completely disregarding the power and depth of the source material. And Scott's vision leans too far into creating a spectacle, leaving the story of Moses stripped of its awe-inspiring spiritual journey. The plagues, the liberation of the Israelites, and even Moses' personal transformation feel lifeless and devoid of the gravity they should hold. Like the decision to reduce God's presence to a childlike representation is emblematic of the film's disconnect from its biblical roots. Like I even find it baffling that some people, like my cousins Justin and James, consider this movie awesome. Perhaps they're dazzled by Ridley Scott's mastery of visuals, his ability to create vast, immersive worlds, and the technical brilliance on display, but these elements alone do not make a great film. A beautiful shell without substance is still hollow. While Exodus excels in its technical aspects, its cinematography, its visual effects, and ensemble cast, it utterly fails as an adaptation of one of the most profound biblical stories. Ridley Scott's direction is pretentious and self-indulgent, prioritizing scope over soul and action over authenticity. Like this movie takes one of the most powerful stories ever told and renders it bland, boring, and devoid of meaning. For all its visual splendor, it's a disaster piece. A disaster from start to finish. Even as someone who doesn't gravitate towards biblical films, I can't help but feel that this adaptation disrespects the heart and spirit of the story of Moses. Like Ridley Scott may have an eye for spectacle, but in this case, he misses the point entirely. So, I hope you all enjoyed this video, so make sure to like, subscribe, and share, and also follow my letterbox. And just in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.